Peace. God's peace be upon you. Thank you so much for joining me again today here at the Reimagined Schools, where we are changing the way we educate. And we are changing the way we educate by redefining and redesigning urban education. And that means that we are getting rid of, eradicating, demolishing the achievement gap. We are redressing educational inequity and injustice to make it a thing of the past. So thank you for joining me today. Today I want to talk about what took place last week while everybody in social media was in a huff and a puff about who bit Beyonce. Now, I have made some commentary about how much time too many of us spend on issues, not even issues, on individuals and on things that are not important and that do not advance us. Now, you can remember last week, which would be the last week of April, somewhere around that time. The internet and social media was in a tizzy because somebody bit Beyonce. And they were trying to figure out who bit Beyonce and, wanting to comment about what they were going to do to the person who bit Beyonce. And when I tell you that thousands and thousands and millions of people turned in and tuned into that is no exaggeration. But what was going on that was so important during this time that most people completely missed because they were distracted and focusing on the wrong thing is what took place that is going to, if it is allowed, that is going to very negatively impact Black students. Okay, so if you have joined me at the Reimagined Schools previously, and if you are a follower of mine on Twitter and Google Plus and Facebook, then you know what I'm about to talk about. It's my latest blog. And my latest blog is titled, While You Were Distracted by Who Bit Beyonce, You Missed This. If you would like to receive further information on how to subscribe to my channels, then you will see that on this video. But you can also pop over to the reimaginedschools.com, my website, and you'll be able to see the information on how to do that now. But again, while you were distracted by who bit Beyonce, you missed this, okay? And I start with a quote by the illustrious Frederick Douglass, who says, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." We in this community often do not spend the time that we're supposed to spend developing and guiding and producing leadership among our young people. We do not spend enough time advocating for their interests in public education, for their interests in the social society, etc., etc. We spend our time on things that are not going to advance nor benefit them, such as who bit Beyonce on the cheek. Quite honestly, not even a topic of discussion. But what was taking place while everyone was distracted by that and some other things that were going on in the media, but I think that probably was one of the big ones, the biggest one, is that while we are here trying to dismantle and undermine the school-to-prison pipeline, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos and Republicans are making plans to abolish guidelines that were put in place under President Obama's administration to discourage punitive discipline, which includes the use of law enforcement officers to discipline students and encourage restorative justice practices to keep students in school and out of the criminal justice system. Now, I think that is so much more important than who bit Beyonce on the cheek and what needs to happen to that person. Okay? So while everybody was focusing on that, last week, the Secretary and Republicans met in a closed meeting under the mantle of the Federal Commission of Safety that did not include parents, students, teacher groups, or the media to consider rolling back the 2014 guidelines. Okay, the meeting was closed to everyone except for the Republicans, who are the ones who are making this very important decision that, if it is allowed to be rolled back, is going to absolutely negatively impact Black students. And I'm going to tell you more about that as we go along. Now, the guidelines that President Obama's administration put into place provided policies to assure that special education students and Black and Latino students were not disproportionately disciplined in schools. Those guidelines also provided for mental health support to students, and it also clearly defined the role of law enforcement officers who partner with schools. Now, suffice it to say that these guidelines were needed. They were needed to be put in place to protect the interests of historically disenfranchised students. Now, here at the Reimagined Schools, we have spent a lot of time discussing this issue, and here we are again. I have done blogs and videos on my YouTube channel about disproportionate discipline of Black students. I have talked about the presence of police on school campuses and why we do not need more police on school campuses, and in fact we need even less. And here we are again. Okay? We have to pay attention to what's going on around us and stop following the carrot that is being dangled in front of us as if though that is so important, when the real issues that are going to impact our children, our future, are happening right around us and we have no clue, no concept. Now, these guidelines are being reconsidered in light of the shooting that took place in Florida in February. Florida Senator Marco Rubio blamed the PROMISE program, and that's an acronym, PROMISE, that stands for Preventing Recidivism Through Opportunities, Mentoring, Interventions, Supports, and Education. A mouthful, yes. He is blaming the PROMISE program and Broward County Schools discipline policies for being too soft on students like the shooter in the Florida mass shooting, Nicholas Cruz. However, now let's talk about the facts. The facts are that the PROMISE program was put into place to prevent Black and Latino students from being disproportionately detained for minor offenses. That means that they put the program into place so that Black and Latino students would not be detained by the police for something minor. Because we know that when students in school interact with police, when police get involved, then it's an earlier entrance into the criminal justice system for those students. That is a known fact. But again, never take my word for it. Do your own research. Okay. But furthermore, facts, Nicholas Cruz was not even in the program, and the school district's policy would never have prevented him from being arrested. So what's going on here? The fact is that Republicans are making school shootings the face of why they need to abolish the 2014 guidelines and support harsh discipline practices, even though they know that this act will negatively impact Black and special education students. With all the reports that are available to anybody who wants to see them, all you have to do is do a Google search. With all the reports available that show how much harsher Black and special education students are dealt with in schools, there's no need for me to rehash it here. Okay. Now, as I said, you can check out my previous blogs and videos on YouTube for the Reimagined Schools if you need a reminder. But remember, that's just a start. You know I expect you to dig deeper. But this is a topic that I've been talking about since I first started with this social media thing, and that was in October. And it is constantly on my tongue. It is constantly in the news. It is constantly being reported upon. But everybody's worried about all the wrong things and not focusing on what is important and what is occurring in the lives of our students on a daily basis. And by everybody, I'm speaking specifically to African American, Bilalian, Black, Aboriginal, however you choose to refer to yourself. I'm referring to those parents who have Black students in public schools. This information is available and has been for a very long time, and it continues to show the same pattern, the same trend, that Black students are much, much more disproportionately disciplined in schools. I have told you before, I speak not only from knowledge, I speak from experience. I'm a career educator. I am a licensed administrator. I'm a licensed person to be a superintendent of schools. I'm a curriculum specialist. I understand all of these things that I'm speaking on. I have experienced them. I have witnessed them, and I'm telling you what I know, and I'm telling you the urgency with which this subject needs to be dealt with. And here we are again, talking about this topic, but this time we're talking about the measures that have been put in place to try to protect our Black students and even our Latino students, and definitely our special education students, are at risk and are being used under the cover of Florida shootings to abolish that. And we know from the research that it is going to negatively impact our students, as it always does, unfortunately. Okay? So again, they are pushing the zero tolerance policy again. And there are some places, don't get it confused, where zero tolerance is indeed still the norm. Take a look at your school district's policy. I have been saying this. You cannot just allow your children to walk into a school and you have no idea what's going on in that school. You have no idea on what the philosophy is concerning students in that school. You cannot allow your children to walk into a school where you don't understand how they view your students. All you have to do in most school districts is look online. And since you're online anyway, looking about who bit Beyonce, okay? On YouTube, on Instagram, you need to be on your child's or your grandchildren's or your nieces or your neighbor's children's school website to take a look at their discipline policy. It should be available to anyone who wants to see it. Now, if it's not available, then that is a red flag that needs to be addressed immediately to the administration in that school district. But in most cases, it's available online. Take a look at it. Is it a zero tolerance policy? Zero tolerance means that we're not going to tolerate this, we're not going to tolerate this, and it is you are immediately out the door and there's nothing else to be said. There's no discussion. There's no flexibility. Or is it a progressive discipline procedure and policy? That's what I believe in. That means that every situation is judged by its own merit in relationship to the student that is involved, and that there is no mass routine on how things are going to be addressed. It is progressive, which means you build and you try to provide alternatives to the harsher penalties, hoping that you don't have to get to the harsher penalties. And in many cases that works for probably about 80% of the student population. And then there are others who have more severe needs that are meant to be addressed in a different manner in any case. Okay. And does your granddaughter or grandsons or child's, your son or daughter's school district, do they have restorative practices? That is, do they have like a student court? Is there some measure where they can make amends for the things that they did, whether that be if they said something that was not appropriate, that they are made to apologize and maybe do some community service because of it? Or do they appear before their peers to be addressed by their peers in a manner that is more restorative, there is more dignity, there's more justice, there is more of a community and something that is meant to help build your character and to teach you something beyond the zero tolerance policy. Okay, so you need to make sure you take a look at that and find and understand that information on your own. So again, they're pushing the zero tolerance policy again, which never reaches the students it is designed for. And the students that a zero tolerance policy is designed for are for the extreme behavior of extreme students. Okay, that, small percentage of students that most people aren't going to see in their schools anyway. But it is a very small percent because it is extreme behavior meant it is an extreme policy, I meant to say, excuse me, for extreme behavior of extreme students. Now, if we went back and did a discipline history of school shooters, would their records match the discipline of black students who are not shooting up schools? Something to think about, because it's more likely that black students' discipline records would show harsher discipline for mostly minor offenses, according to the data. All of that data that I keep referencing will demonstrate that, no matter where in the country you are. If you do a research on disproportionality and discipline, it is going to show you that black students and Latino students are disproportionately disciplined as compared to their white peers. And also it's going to show you that special education students are more disproportionately disciplined than their regular education peers. And again, you have to do this research on your own. Don't just depend on what I'm saying. You have to become informed and knowledgeable about all things school. And you do that by doing research. Just like you dig into what your favorite celebrity did, didn't do, what they wore, what they said, what's your favorite reality TV show. You need to spend that effort and energy on doing something that is going to potentially make a drastic difference in how your child, your grandchild, your neighbor's child, the community of children experience life in this country. Okay? Is that serious? Yes, it is. Okay? So, what is this about, really? There is a vested interest in promoting the school to prison pipeline. Let me say that again. What is this really about? There is a vested interest in promoting the school to prison pipeline, and the zero tolerance agenda supports the pipeline. The research is clear. There is a direct link between schools and prison for black students, especially male and special education students. There is no question about it. Those things are tied together. You can do research right now that tells you that prisons are being built based on information about students who are in elementary school. You can find that information on your own. And in fact, I want you to find that information on your own. I won't be providing any links because you're the link. You have to do the research and understand the urgency, like I do, and others like me, because we understand the knowledge, but also have the experience of working in an environment that we see is not productive as it should be for black students. Okay. Now, this conversation is overlooked and ignored by most. And again, while the Federal Commission on Safety met to discuss abolishing the 2014 discipline guidelines that will negatively impact black students, social media was in a huff about who bit Beyonce. Millions of people searched for information on this topic, viewed videos, and left a slew of comments on social media, but they know nothing about and are not checking for what is happening in public schools to black students, and we cannot continue in this way. If we are going to progress as a people, if we are going to build better futures for our children, if we are going to demand a better education and a better environment for our children, that has to stop. Okay. There are very few advocates for black children, and too many parents have neglected their duty to protect and look after the interests of their children. And that's a fact. It's a hard fact to hear. It's hard to hear it. It may hurt you, but it's true. Okay. I don't come on here telling you something that's not true. I come on here telling you what I know to be true from my own experience as an educator, what I have seen and experienced my own self. This is a fact, and it can no longer continue. It's just like anything else. Whatever you start, you can stop whenever you want to. It's just a matter of, do you see the importance of stopping? It's high time that you see the importance of stopping with the nonsense and focusing on what's important in regards to the development of our children and our community. Okay. And this is why, because of this neglect, that black students continue to experience debilitating social and academic injustice. Anything from the achievement gap, from the disproportionality and discipline, from the segregated and unequal schools, from the poor facilities that our students many of them, not all of them, many of them experience. It has everything to do with why this continues, because no one is expecting that you're going to sit up and pay attention and do something about it. So they do whatever they want to do because they can. But what happens when you finally say enough already? I'm awake, I'm woke, however you want to say it, and I'm on this, okay? Black parents and community members must exercise their collective efforts to advocate for what is in the best interest of Black students. Stop wasting all of your energy on nonsense topics while major decisions that are going to negatively impact you and yours go unchecked. Now, the Reimagine Schools is here to help you develop your voice and your courage as a parent and community advocate. Our students' formative years must be cultivating and engaging. These are the years that define the rest of their lives. How many of you can think back to what life was like when you were in school? I can tell you that I have met parents who are very reluctant to even come into the school to talk to me because of the very terrible experiences that they had when they were children. They have a perception of what school is based on how they were treated. So when I say to you that these years of our students' lives define the rest of their lives, many of you can relate to that. You understand that because you have your own story and your own experience. And then on the other hand, there are some who had great experiences in school. But we want all of our students, all of them are ours. We want them all to have excellent opportunities in education. Okay? We want to make these years the best of their lives. So let's work together to make educational injustice and inequity a thing of the past. And I'm not a person who likes to talk a lot. I know here in these videos that may not always ring true, but I do these videos for a reason, and that is to help awaken you, to help you understand what the issues are in education as they relate to Black students, and to encourage you to become a strong parent and community advocate for our children who need someone to stand up for what is in their best interest, to speak on their behalf. So if you are interested in becoming that strong parent and advocate for our students and community advocate as well, please make sure that you begin by understanding exactly what everything is in your own school district. That is, you understand, you go and you read their policies and you ask questions and you attend meetings and you request meetings when you find information that you need further details about. That is the function of schools. We are here to serve the people in the community, and too many of us are not utilizing that function as it should be, and it is high time that that takes place. So I hope that this information was helpful to you. Please make sure you like, you share, most important, you share, and you subscribe. Thank you. God's peace be upon you. And remember, you are obligated to keep the peace. So I thought I needed. So I thought I needed.